Bob Fireman, CEO, started this company. Very, very great person, trailblazer within the industry, passed away last month. First off, I guess the question, who was Bob Fireman and what's the legacy that he leaves behind? Hey everyone, welcome to the Trade of Black podcast. Thanks for checking in. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Today, as usual, we talk cannabis. It's a brand new year, a lot of uncertainty pertaining to the industry, but we want to find out what questions you want to know, help calm the nerves, and have a better idea as to how 2023 is going to unfold and basically the action plan that's in place. And there's no better person we want to bring in. He's the Interim CEO of MariMed, Jon Levine, back to the podcast. Good day and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you also.
Yeah, how are things? I know we're getting ready for I think there's a lot of mixed emotions towards the industry pertaining, obviously, with some of the legislation that didn't move again last month, and then people are disappointed. But as you and I discussed off camera before we started this interview, there's just a lot of re-education and almost like a reset that many people, I think, as far as expectations, are learning and need to learn going forward. Do you not think?
Oh, absolutely. I just think that people weren't prepared for this economic turndown that has affected all businesses, but even cannabis. And you had to be ready for that even before just the economic turndown. So I think that people kind of got caught off guard and they just don't understand cannabis is a real business.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I want to get into business, but before we get that, we need to address the elephant in the room, and I think it's important. Bob Fireman, CEO, started this company. Very, very great person, trailblazer within the industry, passed away last month. First off, I guess the question, who was Bob Fireman and what's the legacy that he leaves behind?
Bob Fireman, he was a great business person, better friend, and a true brother to me. Bob and I have known each other just over 20 years, been in business with Bob for about 19, maybe a little bit more. Bob in the industry, he was always a friendly talker. Mm-hmm. Bob loves to help people. Bob was a leader in the industry of showing people, not caring whether we were giving away secrets, but trying to get everybody educated because this is an industry where we're big enough that we can all have a little piece of it. And Bob was a true entrepreneur who loved to share with everybody.
Yeah.
And Bob will always be known as the pioneer with the industry and the way to set up the businesses. I mean, Bob and I started way back when we went to the Super Show, and we were the only two people wearing a suit. Everybody else was in flip-flops and jeans and T-shirts. So it was a change of the industry over the last 10 years, watching people start wearing more business attire and running this more like a business. But he and I started this, and he was a true inspiration and partner with me to build something, to be a visionary of what it should look like, of running a real business in a new industry, coming up with new innovative solutions of how the business should be looked at and thought of.
Yeah, that's well said, John. A lot of people, investors, they like to look at sound business models when investing into specific companies. There's also an important thing now, especially with today's day and age for investors, investing into a company that has good rapport, good values. So based off of that, and I know some of the conversations I've had with Bob in the past, those are very important things, and any CEO is going to say that. But he backed up those words because of the rapport that I see with the team that was basically formed. But getting to my point, what is, I guess, the legacy and the values that Bob leaves behind for your company moving forward?
Well, Bob leaves behind a group of people, including myself, that is all about the MariMed family. Like I said, Bob, as you said, was a leader that was very close, loved to keep everybody close. The family of MariMed, though it was a sad time over the last month, we've all banded together and supported one another to make sure that this business and his legacy move forward in a positive way, and that we finish everything that he and I and the group have started and move it to the next level. His vision of growing this to a $500 million to $1 billion company is still in sight, and the team is working diligently to move in that direction.
That's great. So let's move into that then. Talk about the legacy that you have behind and how you want to get to that goal. And before we get into like what we want to move ahead as far as the upcoming 2023 year, let's recap the year that just had and what you guys, I guess, felt you advanced the most and the momentum that you have going into this year.
Yeah, this past year was a good year. We kept the growth going. It didn't grow as much as we would have loved, but that was due to economics and the tough economic times of getting supplies for build outs and the state's licensing boards being a little slow at getting their final approvals. I mean, but we had many more successes over the year. We were able to basically continue our growth in Illinois. We had all four of our dispensaries open for a full year. We bought another license in Illinois to make our fifth license coming up in 2023. We bought a cultivation and processing license that will expand in 2023. But we also were able to get those other facilities up and running that we already had, and they're one of the top dispensaries in the state of Illinois, even though they're in the southern part.
Yeah.
In Maryland, though it took a lot longer than we had expected, we finally finished after years of tough times, able to roll Kind Therapeutics in when we finally got the purchase agreement completed, and it took us an extra 4 months to get the state to give us the final sign off. In addition, we had been working on the kitchen expansion and
Yep.
upgrades to make that into a CGMP kitchen. We got that kitchen done, but because of supply demands with suppliers, we were a little bit later than we wanted. But we actually were very successful, and we got the kitchen open, and we just got our GMP certification, and now we're just looking to get the state sign off so that we can expand the full use of that kitchen back to high dosing. In Massachusetts, we acquired a second dispensary in Beverly that we were able to fully close in the month of December.
Yep.
We completed the build out that was done by, I want to say it was the end of August. But as we said, the state level has been very slow on approvals, and we just finally had our inspection this past week, and it will take us another 3-4 weeks before the next hearing, and then they have another inspection, and then you're able to open. So those type of delays are what
Is that part of the game? Like, is it no different than it was before, or do you find lately that state officials have been slower than normal?
No, it's part of the game. And Massachusetts has been notoriously known for being very slow. I think it's just the growth in Massachusetts. COVID still has affected a lot
Yeah,
of
of
the
course.
processes, but the fact that they only meet once a month for approvals does delay it, and that you have to have two inspections versus one. So the state of Massachusetts has always been very slow, but we've had issues in the state of Maryland trying to approve the Maryland license transfer, that it took an extra 2 months versus what we had thought it would take, and the fact that we were on the agenda 2 months earlier than what we got approved. So it's always something that can cause delays other than
Yeah.
suppliers. The state licensing boards are very difficult. But going back to Massachusetts, there was the decline in pricing, but we actually have been able to maintain the level in Massachusetts with our nature's heritage, and we've successfully launched our in-house brand. In Ohio, in 22, we won a license for a dispensary, which we are in the process of building out, and we'll have that launched in 2023. Our brands, we were able to expand our brands even more in 2022. We had a project that was one of Bob's favorite. They signed a partnership agreement with EMAC and Bolio
Yep.
that we finally launched that ice cream under the Betty's Eddy's line, and we have a
Big
Betty's
opportunity.
Eddy's ice cream, which I got to admit is, you were talking earlier about quitting smoking. You're gonna have a hard time staying away from that ice cream. So you got to get some. You'll love it. And then
I'm not surprised. But Betty's Eddy's the brand. When does it re-enter back into the Illinois market?
I'll get to that in 1 second. We're going to be back in the Illinois market. We're in the process of building out our cultivation and processing center. I believe it would probably be safe to say somewhere around mid-year,
Okay.
getting it onto the market, because again, regulatory constraints of getting approvals, not just for the construction, but it's also for the packaging and the ingredients of all the products that we make.
How many years has it been since that brand was in the Illinois market?
Believe
Like,
it
the
was,
reason I ask is
I think
because
it's
when
been 4 years since we've been there.
And where I'm going with this is like there's a lot of hype and anticipation pertaining to it because maybe walk my viewers through as to like how the brand performed back in the Illinois market from 4 years ago and what you're anticipating once you do break into that market later this year.
Absolutely. I mean, we were very excited when we were able to sign an agreement with GTI when they actually just started their operations in
Yeah.
Illinois. That was their first location. And we worked diligently with them to teach them how to properly extract and to make our Betty's Eddies so that it was a perfect product. And when it hit the market, it was the top seller for 2 years with GTI. But then when in 2018, when the vote went for adult use, GTI started pulling back and deciding that they needed to go a different direction with their internal brands and save oil and flour for their own products. So they cut back on the Betty's Eddies. So when we went out, we were still the number one selling edible on the
No kidding.
market. And we get still today weekly emails asking when we're going to be back in Illinois. So
Oh, you
two
do.
years, 2 years to 4 years of emails begging us to come back. And we could never
Wow.
find the right partner that had enough oil. Now
Right.
we're going to have our own oil and our own production facility to be able to manufacture and supply all the dispensaries within the state.
Takes a little time, but take out the middleman, right?
Yes, it does.
When you look at peak inflation, I think we've turned a corner. It's behind us. However, price constraint is still going to have some pressure, I think, in the first quarter of Q1. How do you see things, I guess, branching out and developing over the course of the next fiscal year?
Well, I mean, like I said, Massachusetts had big price reductions. Maryland even had bigger ones, and I've seen it even in Michigan, and some price reductions in Illinois. The difference is that we've seen that start to get leveled out now.
Yep.
But the difference is I still, as I said earlier, with the economic issues of the economy today, that people are very cautious of what they spend their money on. And I just hope that everybody is cautious for the right reasons because you got
Yeah.
to make sure you feed your family. It's nice to
100%.
be able to get your medicine or your fun stuff to relax and enjoy, but we all have to be smart. I think that's caused the prices in the market to go down. Some of these states like Massachusetts and Maryland, the grow operations have actually outpaced the sales, so you have a bigger inventory supply, which actually causes the price to drop anyways.
Uh-huh.
But I do know, and we even announced our in-house brand, adding an entry point price point. If you still make a good product and you're able to bring it in at a lower price, doesn't mean that we're cutting corners. It just means that we're mass producing it quicker with a lot more machinery for packaging, trimming, where our top line stuff is all made with craft of grow and love, where we hand trim and we take extra
Yeah.
care of that bud.
Who would have thought that could actually happen in cannabis, right, John?
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a lot different.
I know.
And people
It,
went to mass manufacturing, and that's why I believe, like even in Massachusetts, and I've seen some complaints in other states where the state code calls for packaging that you can't see what you're buying until you get home. That's why people have to find the trust in a grower like us, where
yeah.
they know that we love our flower and that we care about it as much as they do. It's like buying a fine bottle of wine. You know that you can trust that person without having to come and taste it first.
Yeah, consistency, right? And
Yes.
everything will take care of its time. Everything will take care of itself over time, I should say. When we look at the year, it didn't go as planned. You guys seem to outperform the industry in a crazy year, which was great. Some things obviously uncontrollable for some companies, but overall, I think a success. I would look at the past year that was had. You just announced a debt deal for $65 million, some of the lowest interest rates we've seen despite a rising interest rate environment. So first off, how were you able to get the rate that you did?
It's our balance sheet. I mean,
Balance. Okay.
we've been very cautious about having a balance sheet that is in line with the business that we're doing. We have been profitable. We have no debt other than mortgage debt that's at low rates. And to make the decision back when we first started getting into this debt acquisition, Bob and I discussed a lot about the fact that the equity markets weren't in existence anymore. Our stock price was way too low, and to borrow on the equity side would dilute us too much. So
Yeah.
when we started looking into debt ability, both of us were just like, I can't believe that we got to pay these stupid rates. They're so high just because we're in the cannabis industry. We've been very successful over the years borrowing money through mortgages, and those were all at a normal mortgage rate, maybe a half a point to a point higher.
Yeah.
We started talking to all these investment bankers about what the rates were. I was amazed with the numbers we were hearing, and we met with
What were some of
Chicago.
the What were some of the numbers you were hearing?
8 to 10% over prime,
Wow. Wow.
and that 10% over prime would make most people throw up just having to pay 10% interest.
No kidding. No kidding.
I was nauseous over the number of five,
Yeah.
and it's where we ended up. But that is one of the lowest in the industry, and that's for our size. But the piece that when we met with Chicago Atlantic, it was all about the relationship, understanding our business, showing them why we're a good businessman, how we are able to maintain the profitability, the cash flow, and the EBITDA. It's because we've been very diligent and cautious of everything that we do. We don't rush into the market. We take our time, we review the market, we make our strategy, and then we build out and follow through. We built most of these facilities that we've operated back at the very beginning from the ground up before we owned them and managed them and put them into business.
Yeah.
And we basically were doing that for a reason, to make sure that we did everything to control the market, to control the manufacturing, to control the costs, and that's part of our success. As I said, we continue to be one of the most profitable of the cannabis companies. Our numbers may not be as big as the top cannabis MSOs, but our profitability and our EBITDA are right in line with theirs, if not better. We also have looked at the need for this money when Bob and I were talking about it. It was to basically get through 2023,
Yeah.
get these
Yeah.
open as quick as possible. With the slowness of the sign-offs or the supplies, we started a lot of these projects in 2022, hoping to finish some of them. Just paying it out of cash flow just wasn't going to get it done quick
Yeah.
enough. We've been looking at additional opportunities, such as we got the license in Missouri that we're going into with a processing center. So we want to make sure that we get that open as quick as we can now with adult use in Missouri to get Betty's, Eddy's, and Bubby's and our other brands into that market as quick as possible. And then in Illinois, as we said, we've already started that construction project, and because of delays, we're not going to have that open until sometime in April or May, just hoping that we can get all the cooling equipment in to be able to open. But this cash will give us the ability to not only finish the projects that we started in 2022, but to add additional businesses that we're going to acquire or buildings that we're going to expand. And we're going to be more aggressive in 23. So 23 will be a growth year, but not the growth that we would have projected if we had finished everything in 22. Now I'm saying 23 is going to be a good growth year, but 24 is going to be amazing when we have all these open for a year plus.
So that kind of explains why you're taking on debt now. But I guess my next question was kind of like, what is the strategy for the upcoming year? So you're thinking that, let's face it, the industry, we could see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We could see a lot of like smaller operators or companies, I should say, that you're going to run out of cash. You've always expressed in the past being the hunted versus, or you're more the hunter versus the hunted. Do you look at this year as you expand, looking at acquiring different assets that there'll be some favorable rates that you could purchase at?
Yeah, and that's what the beauty of this taking this debt on right now is. Not only did we get the debt for completing what we're presently working on, but we're not dipping into the cash flow, that positive cash flow that we're generating. Even though we're taking debt that we need to pay, we still have excess cash flow coming from operations, along with the new facilities coming online that's going to increase, so that we can use that money to expand our operations at a time when I got to admit, I hear a lot of companies struggling in every state. In Massachusetts alone, I just heard that there's at least 5 to 6 that are basically seeking protection from the courts because there
Wow.
is no Chapter 11. And a lot of these companies are
So
actually,
you think this is going to happen fast then? It's because it's already happening.
it's already happening. I also feel that the pricing for licenses is coming down. We've seen a reduction of the cost of buying licenses, specifically in Illinois. I mean, we've been very fortunate that we didn't rush like a lot of other people, and we're seeing that the prices, because we always felt that we needed to pay the right price that made sense, not what everybody's offering in the market. Just because
Yeah.
these companies went up to Canada, raised a lot of money, and will pay
Yeah.
anything, we've never felt that way. We've always run this like a real business, that it had to make monetary sense to put a bid in to buy something, and we've never failed on buying and making them successful. So I'm very proud of what we've done. Bob's leadership with me has basically been a great way to look at 23 and beyond, in that we have to make the same decisions to grow this business, not at a fast pace, but at a pace that will maintain the level of integrity of looking at these deals to make sure that we're not overpaying.
I want to ask something like totally off topic, but you brought up the whole Canadian thing. How much of a detriment do you think the whole Canadian cannabis market do you feel has I don't want to say detrimental, but kind of confused expectations, investors' eyes when you look at the growth of this industry? Like, are those conversations? I don't think you think about moving forward, but being in this industry, how much do you think the Canadian market has affected investors' expectations, even though we're 5 or 6 years later after all this kind of unfolded?
I definitely think that the Canadian market, with the amount of money that was raised up there and what came onto the market really quick, people were overpaying 5 to 6 times
Yeah,
over what the value of these licenses were. And what it's done is caused and the people that are entering this market not thinking about what really takes to run a cannabis business. They think, oh, I can make money, buy the license, I'll sell it to somebody else after I get it up and running.
yeah.
The fact is that they don't have a clue what they're doing, and that they
So you
expect
still think
that
there's
an
an
overpay.
impact? You still think there's an impact as to what happened 5, 6 years ago is still affecting the way business is run today?
Absolutely, because people still feel the value of their licenses is worth more. That's what
Yeah.
I was just explaining, that in Illinois, we're seeing the prices come down. And I do feel that that is because the reality is these licenses are now in an abundance, but they're understanding this is not an easy market to be in. With all the regulatory constraints, the state and federal, the Fed's not passing the Banking Act. This is going to make it very difficult for all these licenses to open up. And people think that they're worth $5 to $10 million just for
Yeah.
a piece of paper. They're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money and time and effort that goes in to build these, and the licenses don't make that money back for years. I mean, you go into
Let me
medical
ask you,
use,
if
it's
licenses are
even
selling
harder.
between if licenses are selling between have sold between 5 and 10 million, you think that's too much? What do you think they are worth?
Depends on what state and what the how many licenses there are. I mean, some states the licenses are worth $1 million. Some they're worth 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Depends on the. It really depends on the market and the area. Because if you're restricted, I mean, we're restricted in some of our license to Southern Illinois. There's really good areas of Southern Illinois, but being over on the Missouri border now, which is a
Yeah.
rec state also,
Yeah.
it's not worth as much.
Yeah.
It's as the eastern part of Illinois. So again, it depends on where you are. There's an overabundance up in Chicago, so people up there think those are about $7 to $10 million licenses. But how many licenses can actually survive in one area as the market will level out?
Let me ask you, CEO of a company, if you're an investor entering in this space, like you're brand new to the industry going into 2023, what kind of, and I don't want to say advice, but if you had any questions that people should be asking pertaining to this industry if they do want to get invested into the space, what do you think those are?
Well, the first one is, why do you want to do it? I've been in this industry for 15 plus years, and I'm still asking that question. It's a lot of work. I mean, people don't understand that this is a real business with a lot of handcuffing. The questions they have to ask are, what are the local and federal rules that they need to know most? The next one is, how do you raise money? Because if you're not a public company, or you don't have a investment banker and people that want to put money into you, which there aren't many out there today. There's very little
Yeah.
money in the investment market. That you've got to figure out how to raise money. Bankers don't want to take somebody that's never been in that business. You can't just walk up to the door of a regular bank. You can't go to Citizens Bank of America. They'll laugh at you and they'll close your personal accounts on you. So
Yeah.
this is not something people even think about when they get into it. They think, oh, I got money in my bank. I can throw some money towards this. And then all of a sudden their bank tells them, oh, by the way, you got to take your personal account and get out too, because we don't like cannabis.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think we'll look back at this one day though and be like talking about these stories, and people will think, I think the reality is that the industry still has better days, like really bright days ahead of it. It's going to have a huge impact on society, for the foreseeable future. It is a Washington play right now, legislation play, but there's a lot of things, like a lot of companies, especially even the big operators, are going to have to show how they are going to make cash, be cash flow positive, obviously here in 2023, but listen, I appreciate the update and sit down with us. Good recap of 2022, and then 2023 going to be a year of growth. But you're basically saying, in so many words, you think 2024 is going to be even a bigger year.
Yes, I mean 2023. We're opening up our Illinois production and grow in 2023. We'll open up the Missouri production facility. We'll open up additional facilities for retail in Massachusetts, in Illinois, in Ohio, and Maryland. We just opened the retail store at the end of 2022, and we're looking forward to that getting up. Plus our TGMP kitchen in Maryland, and being able to get back to some high dose edibles will hopefully bring us back to the medical market. But they just also approved adult use in Maryland, so we're looking forward to that also. So there's great opportunities in 2023. So we're looking forward to another growth year. But again, adding all these other pieces in 2023, you're going to see an even bigger 2024.
That's great. Great strategy. Always appreciate connecting with you. Before I let you go, one last question. What do you think is the greatest memory that you remember about Bob Fireman?
Greatest memory of Bob Fireman, if it's business, there's a lot of them. Personal, it would basically be that he was my brother. Even though I have two brothers, he was probably the best brother I ever had. All my time spending with him on the golf course and other things will always be the most memorable. But in business, I'd have to say it's jumping into this arena with cannabis and listening to him speak and tell people about what's not easy about this industry on a constant basis has taught me a lot more about how presenting and how difficult it is, but how to make it more fun by actually just telling the truth and speaking the story.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was actually down in Benzenga last year, and some of the guys that on your team were telling me that at Fountain Blue, the hotel at Miami Beach, there's a hallway and it has all these pictures on the walls with like the Rat Pack, with like Sinatra and Sammy Davis, and there's Bob, very humble. Yeah, I used to party with them, and I'm like, this is what some of the team members were. I'm like, what? Anyways, was there truth to that?
Bob was absolutely, yes. He 100% had the truth to all that. Bob's family and Bob, I mean, with his lots of travel and business, he many, very many superstars and singers and actors and politicians. And I met many of those people with him. But yeah, he definitely was enjoying Fountain Blue Hallway, walking back to his room, telling me the story of the Rat Pack and all those guys and the times that he got to spend with them.
I'm sure. The way he presented himself, I'm sure he was a popular guy when he was 25 or 30.
Yes, he was.
Well, listen, appreciate it. Happy New Year. All the best. And let's keep in touch. Okay, John?
Thank you, Shad, and Happy New Year to you.
Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. 2023 is here, and right now, a lot of uncertainty pertaining to the markets, especially new emerging industries like crypto, cannabis, psychedelics, and more. So leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, what are the questions that you want asked, and most importantly, what's the information that you want to learn. Once we produce these videos, then share this to your network, subscribe to our channel, and click on that bell for all notifications, because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.